Welcome back to Arts, Work, Life, a video podcast from the Association of Performing Arts Professionals. I am your host, Claire Caulfield.
And I am Jenny Thomas, executive producer.
Welcome to Season 5, Episode 2, Paths. In today's episode, we're exploring the many different paths that a career in the arts can take, and how sometimes it's the most unexpected events that lead you to where you were meant to be.
And we chose these 4 stories because their messages and emotions still resonate today.
They very much do, and we're starting with an incredibly memorable and emotional story from Season 3.
Look at this.
Most people would call a pile of toilet paper rolls, tangled strings, and broken can openers trash.
This is one of my favorites. This is a broken can opener.
But to Sheila Gaskins, these are the building blocks of magic.
Get yourself some googly eyes, and you can definitely make a puppet. And there you go. There you have it. The teeth are made from a plastic bowl. I like to call what I do kitchen sink puppetry, because I use things that you would have around your house. But yeah, googly eyes is the secret.
Sheila is a puppeteer, and she has hundreds of stories of how her puppets have touched people's lives, from adult and senior classes to breakthroughs with troubled elementary school kids.
And I get teary-eyed every time I tell this story, because one student, he was really off the chain. He didn't listen, he couldn't keep still, and I noticed while we were doing the puppetry, I was like, hey, you have been listening, you've been doing your homework, you haven't been talking back. What's going on? And he said, and I get teary-eyed. He said, Miss Sheila, I just didn't think I would ever be doing anything like this. Making a puppet.
Last year, Sheila was the artist in residence at the Maryland Institute College of Art, working on her next puppet show. Part of her academic work focused on the history of blackface puppets in America. That is, puppets that were made by white performers to mock and belittle black people, often portraying black people as violent, dangerous, and stupid.
It's the step brother or sister to blackface minstrels. Some of them had music that accompanied them, and they would tour all around the country, making a lot of money with this negative image of the black person. There's a lot of shame behind it. The injustice is that this art form of puppetry put a negative stereotypical face to black people.
Sheila was working through this research when she attended a workshop that encouraged her to make a puppet of someone close to her heart.
The assignment was make a puppet about someone who has your back, who you trust and believe in, who believes in you. And it didn't take me long, but I said, oh, that's my father. So I made my puppet about my dad.
The puppet of Sheila's father is made mainly from toilet paper rolls, painted a deep, rich brown. The puppet sports a large mustache and a t-shirt that proudly proclaims World's Best Dad.
And as you can see, he has a halo, because he's no longer with us, but he's here in spirit. And he has wonderful wings that are really soft and reminds me of the 80s with Van Halen and all of those acts. I took it to my mother's house, and my mom is suffering now from memory loss, which is a form of dementia. And I was like, Ma, look, I made this puppet.
Sheila's mother hadn't been engaging with much of anything, not her grandchildren nor other puppets made by Sheila. But she immediately gravitated towards the puppet of her late husband.
So lovingly and so endearing that it would put a tear in your eye. And I said, this is Daddy right here. And she was like, oh, Sheila, this is so sweet. This is so nice. And was just treating the puppet as if it was a person. Just stroking the puppet, feeling the wings and the hair, straightening the hair out.
For Sheila, who had been reckoning with this racist history of blackface puppets, there was so much beauty in that moment. A puppet of a dark-skinned man being loved, not used as a racist punchline.
And I just thought about the magic of puppetry and how healing it really is. And one of the things that I did was I performed my piece, and it's called Gas Mask. And it's called Gas Mask because my dad, he worked at Bethlehem Steel, and our last name is Gaskins, and they called him Gas Mask. So my dad made a lot of bridges. He worked for Bethlehem Steel, so according to him, every bridge that's out there, he built. So we could never go past a bridge without his signature. You see that bridge right there? I built that bridge. Blah, 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 blah. We were like, okay, Daddy. So the story is just the hijinks and our relationship driving up and down. And then I also talk about his final days where I was able to be near him during the final days, and I was just letting him know how great of a dad he's been, and it's okay for him to go because he did a good job. And it's good to show, you don't hear a lot about good daddies. It's just so rewarding to be able to tell your own story. So emotionally, the puppet has taken on its own type of spirit. I didn't know emotionally it would be so gratifying. And just to see my mother gravitate towards it in such a great, awesome way was really refreshing for me to see. There's a level of agency that you have, that you can authentically represent your own puppet in your own voice, in your own culture. And that whole history of blackface puppetry is so complex and so devious that no one even wants to talk about it. Yeah, but people should be able to tell their own stories and represent their own culture and get paid for it.
Sheila has had trouble finding funding for the show about her father, and is also working hard to fund her new project, a puppet show about the life of Ona Judge, an enslaved woman who escaped President George Washington's plantation.
One of the things you have to rely on is getting a lot of grants, because once you do a show, it doesn't pay that much. Maybe it's like less than $300. So you either are booked a lot or you do it because you love it. I have to rely on writing grants to go out into the community to teach puppetry. And I'm currently trying to get a grant to do this show and my other puppet, Ona Judge, which is a life-size puppet, and she is the enslaved servant who escaped George and Martha Washington.
But this next project won't just be a puppet show. It'll also have a puppetry workshop, so everyone in the audience can learn about the power of making a puppet that represents their own history.
What I want people to take away is the power of your own story, your own narrative, the fact that you can be authentic and tell your story. And a good way to do that is through puppetry. There is some power, some healing power in this puppetry thing, and we should celebrate that.
Something else we should celebrate, Jenny, is the fact that we have an update from Sheila.
Yeah, very exciting to catch up with Sheila. I spoke to her recently, and she has created a new piece all about her mother. And by the way, her mother's doing well, for those who are wondering. Yeah. And Sheila has been performing this new piece at various festivals and venues around the country.
Oh, that's so exciting and great to hear.
Yeah. And while I had her on the video call, of course, I had to ask her, you know what I'm going to ask her?
Of course.
About the dad puppet.
Yes. So if you're just listening on your favorite podcast app, you might need to use your imagination here, or just head over to our YouTube channel afterward and watch this part on YouTube. So let's hear from Sheila in 2026.
Daddy, you. Some people want to see you, Daddy. So I need you to fly on over here. I need you to fly on over.
Oh my gosh.
Sure. What, I don't know what camera to look in.
Yeah, go.
Hey, you're great. You're great. And look at his wings.
Yeah,
look at his wings. See the wings?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so at one point he plays the guitar like Led Zeppelin in the 80s. But this is my dad puppet because the assignment was make a puppet about somebody who has your back, who loves you unconditionally, and it was no doubt for me, my daddy. Yep, it's me right here. Pull my finger. Pull my finger. Yeah, that's how my daddy play. He plays too much, and I play too much. So I get it honestly, but he is that type of dad. To pull my finger. You know, he'll tickle you and the whole nine. Look, he likes seeing himself.
Excellent.
See his T-shirt.
Yeah,
World's best dad.
World's best dad. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people will be listening to this and not see the visuals, but I urge you to check out the audio or the video on YouTube.
Oh yes, go to the video so you can see Dad.
You gotta see the dad puppet. Well, this just warms our hearts to see your dad puppet. And
I added a car.
Oh, he has a car now.
Yeah, because the whole story is him picking me up from college.
Got it.
4-year drive. I mean, 4-hour drive. And he doesn't drive unless he has Barry White playing in the background.
Understood.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
gosh.
So I added a car.
We love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We love it.
It was so much fun.
It is so much fun. I mean, I just love Sheila's puppets. They have so much personality. And honestly, I feel really lucky because when I'm interviewing the storytellers over the years, obviously I'm on video chat with them. So I get to see the props, the costumes, photos, you know, their reactions, their emotions in a way that I can't share with listeners on an audio only podcast. Don't be wrong, love an audio only podcast, but that's what makes this season so special because it gives us the opportunity to show things like Sheila's work to the audience.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Well, our next story is from a producer and artist who literally struggled to find their place, their path in the world. In this case, they were between New York City and the rainforests of Colombia. And re-listening to this story in 2026 reminded me of how many arts workers are also still finding their paths.
Absolutely. So Yura Sapi was featured in the first episode of season 4. After earning a graduate degree in arts management, Yura found themselves working in bustling New York City. Their work in fundraising and management for some major arts institutions meant Yura spent their days popping in and out of high-rises around Manhattan. Yura was living many people's dream, but felt that something was missing. And then, during one of their many long subway commutes from Brooklyn to Times Square, it started to rain.
The lifestyle that I was living felt very counter to what my spirit really was asking for. Just feeling very, very packed in those trains in the morning, feeling like you're just part of this machine of capitalism in New York and just this like cog of just the world. And I also have these memories of being in the subway and when it's raining and it's, you know, just like flooding the subway. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't want this to be how it ends for me to be in the subway with these rainstorms. I think that was like a metaphor for really the pressure to break out, wanting to make a bigger impact, and knowing that at these institutions, it just is hard to really see that happen fast. The larger the budget, the more people involved, the harder it is to really change and be nimble and do something totally different and just try something new. And looking back, I understand that. At the time, it was frustrating. It led me to want to create something new.
Yura met with their mentor from graduate school, who advised them to give the 9-to-5 another chance. Yura was in their early 20s at the time, and starting a new organization was a big risk. But that wasn't the only change Yura wanted to make. They wanted to leave America. Yura's parents and grandparents are immigrants from Colombia and Ecuador, and Yura holds citizenship in all 3 countries.
So I knew that there was something calling me to go be Ecuadorian, be Colombian, really understand what does it mean to be a citizen. When I first arrived, my Spanish was not where it's at now. And that was definitely a journey to figure out, language and communication. One of the big things was getting to start a physical brick and mortar art space. So that was in Bogota at the end of 2019, going into 2020. We had daily programs, all kinds of activities and gatherings, workshops, performances. We even had some vegan cooking classes, just sharing a lot of representation in Bogota, creating this hub for creativity. What happened was the pandemic, of course, and decided to shut down the physical space for safety, and went virtual. So that was cool too, because we got to now be with people in Peru and Venezuela and Chile and Mexico, and even, allies and friends in the US and Canada. So I learned a lot as a 25-year-old brick and mortar business owner. That really set up the stage for where I'm at now in terms of leadership. And actually, one of the things that the pandemic also brought from going virtual was bringing me to a more remote rural area of Colombia called Nuquí. It's a Black and Indigenous territory, community, known for its biodiversity. It's kind of like the Amazon in terms of tropical rainforest, rivers. And it's also on the Pacific coast. Thermal baths, dolphins and whales that come, and surfing. So it's a really beautiful paradise.
Instead of checking the bus schedule, Yura learned to read the tides. If the river was running too high, they couldn't take a boat into the village for meetings. A major rainstorm would knock out the electricity. But this forced reconnection with nature also forced Yura to spend intense creative time with the people who call Colombia home. And Yura's company, called Libre Arte, was born out of this commitment to both the planet and the people living on it.
One of the music groups that's really big here, we partnered with early on to help them grow. So we developed a relationship that grew as well, with Libre Arte being incorporated, them developing their work, us helping on festivals here. And then eventually we got to bring them to the US last year for a tour along the East Coast, which was really powerful. What we're working on now is building this movement globally that positions art and artists as this under-resourced, underfunded, underestimated, but powerful vehicle for social change that will actually be the catalyst that gets us to solving all these problems that we're facing. The power of the arts, whether in the civil rights movement, even considering indigenous people that steward the majority of the world's biodiversity, use cultural, artistic practices to do that. So we basically are just trying to highlight more of what's already there and help move the needle in that way. So this experience with this music group, bringing their wisdom of really earth connection, community, ancestrality, even the instruments are a whole story of where they come from in the forest and being made. And then bringing that to an audience like New York, that was really powerful. At the end of their tour, They were invited to perform at the United Nations Conference on Biodiversity, COP16. And that was kind of what we were going for, this whole idea of wanting to fill these spaces with more arts, with more representation, more storytelling, more emotional connection, and the awakening of creativity for all. It's very local, but also global.
Yura said that for a long time, they thought that getting far away from New York City was what made this dream possible. But now they actually see that it was this unique mix of perspectives. Being raised in the city and then pivoting to farms and forests gave them the insight needed to launch these global tours. And when it rains, it's a reminder to consider all perspectives.
The rain was speaking to me even back then, as to say, we are powerful. You should be listening. It does make a lot of sense to be now in one of the world's rainiest places. The way when we get to listen to nature, what is it that they're asking of us as humans, as stewards of the earth, to do, to change, to adjust. And, these floods of these subway systems are kind of saying, there needs to be a change. We need to adjust. This isn't working. This isn't in balance. And what can we do? With the arts, with the stories, that's where we can come in. You can dream big. You can desire and believe in something that maybe doesn't exist in your life right now, but you know that it's out there and it's possible, and you don't know what it is exactly, the details, and that's totally okay.
What another great quote. Believe in something that maybe doesn't exist in your life right now. I mean, I feel like I need to have that on a poster above my computer.
It's so true. And arts workers especially are so flexible. And how Yura listened to their intuition, and in their case, literally listened to the world around them.
Right.
That is still true today.
It's really good advice for anyone in any career, because sometimes being forced to pivot is the best thing that can happen to you. Which brings us to our next story, which is short but extremely joyful. And it's all about realizing why you're in the rooms that you're in.
There's something about listening and listening to, I call it the whisper, because it shows up. It could be that little reminder that's like, you should do your homework. You got to get that application completed. You need to call your mother. Whatever that voice is, it comes out and it comes around for our benefit.
Jason Fletcher Christian Laws has followed that whisper into a successful career as a choreographer and creative producer.
If we're tapped in and aligned and listen to it, we find that it probably helps us, and that it helps us even more when we actually listen to it and take action.
Jason specializes in flash mobs and has produced major viral moments all around the world. A few years ago, he accepted a last-minute project, and the stress was immense. There was a lot to prepare in just a short amount of time, but as he looked around the rehearsal room at the dozens of dancers, he heard that whisper again.
This whisper that just said, pay attention. And I was like, what? I thought someone had ran behind me playing around, but something really said, pay attention. So that sort of sparked this idea for me to really take inventory of, why are we here? Why are we in the room?
As Jason looked into the eyes of the dancers around him, he was transported back to his childhood.
My parents did not want a dancer for a son. So I was the football player, basketball player, soccer player, and then did baseball for a long time. Got to Notre Dame, but for some reason, the bug to dance just never went away. So I was like, I just want to be a dancer. So I'd go to the gym, I'd knock on the door. Some people might be in there working out or doing something, and I'd just say, hey, excuse me, you all, there's a class coming in after. We're going to need this room cleared. And once they were out, lock the door, turn the music on, and start dancing. And it just was really always about passion and just having this yearning, this sort of fire that, like, I'm supposed to be doing this. I love this, and I'm going to seek it out. So that's really where it started.
And now, here he was. The rehearsal rooms looked very similar. Black floor, brick walls, those big mirrors. But the situation was completely different. He wasn't dancing alone. He was here to share his passion with the world.
If we know life is too short, and how unique is it that we could be doing anything in the world right now, but we're crossing paths in the room, in circle together, looking at each other, a room full of dreamers. How much of a missed opportunity would it be for us to not take stock of just how special this moment is and use that for the work that we're doing and the work that we're going to do on the performance day? I was like, y'all have to understand the gravitas of this moment. And I was like, ooh, my foot's tapping, and I'm just like, like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And for a third time with Divine Purpose, I'm so grateful. And I'm there and I'm crying and I love it. I'm surrendered to the moment, surrendered to the experience, and surrendered to these beautiful beings in the room with me. The gratitude I found, and I've been finding with a lot of my projects recently, the gratitude is a special sweet spot. And with that, being in touch with your dreams and bringing them with you into the room so you can be aligned and focused on what you need to do, it's going to create that impact that drives up ticket sales, or makes it the project viral, or creates the impact that it shifts someone's life in an impactful way, the way you desire it to.
So Jenny, it's obvious why the story is so memorable, but why did it deserve a replay in 2026?
Well, first of all, a lot of people voted for the story. We had some members voting in advance, and Jason's energy is just infectious.
Yes.
It's so true. You can really feel that he found his right place. Mm-hmm. And to the point of the theme of this episode, paths, he's literally crossing paths with all these other artists. Mm-hmm. It just captures that serendipity of the arts and the joy that comes from working in this field.
Yeah, and I think all of us have had that moment of like, I'm just so happy. I can't believe I'm in this room with all these cool people. And yeah, Jason is just so open to that feeling. You can literally hear it in his voice and his energy in this story, which I just love so, so much. And lastly, another story I love so, so much, one from season 2, way back in 2023. Leland Faulkner is an actor, writer, comedian, and director. And over the past 30 years, he's worked in just about every media format out there. He's written a lot of his own material, and even though he's a member of the Bad River Band of Chippewa, he never performed Native American stories or wrote about his own identity. But then in 2020, everything in his life fell apart. And when he was at his lowest, his Native identity provided that creative spark that he really needed to keep going. And so Leland starts his story with the day that changed everything, the day his wife had a stroke.
We were just having dinner, and she literally just slid out of her chair onto the floor. I couldn't rouse her. I tried, called 911. Life flighted her to a bigger hospital in a bigger city. And our whole life flipped upside down. She had been my right-hand person. She'd been my manager. She made everything work and tick. And she was my performing partner as well. I'll always be indebted to her for that. Now, all of a sudden, I had to rethink everything. I had to be the one doing all the finances, doing all the bookkeeping. All the things that she had done now suddenly were on my shoulders, and I realized, oh my God, look at all this that she had been doing. It's been very difficult to learn all the skills that she had, as well as learning how to deal with their medications, how to deal with dressing someone and undressing them, because she was now paralyzed. She had to relearn how to speak. She was on a feeding tube for some time. And eventually she learned how to eat and swallow again. That was a big day when she could eat a meal by herself. Went out and got lobster. I'll remember that because it was her favorite food. She's still heavily paralyzed on the left side, is in a wheelchair, but she can speak clearly. Her mind is incredible. Her sense of humor is incredible. And I think that sense of humor is one of the few things that has allowed us to get through all of this. Later, I tried to do a performance. It was so hard to be so distraught and yet have to go out and do comedy while you're suffering. It's such a cliche trope in a way, the suffering artist, the tears of a clown, but it's so true. It took me a long time. I think maybe that's another reason why the Native American stories came to light, is because it was hard to do comedy for me after that. I had attempted in the past to put together a Native American program, and the weight, the cultural weight of representing that is very heavy, much heavier than anything else I've ever experienced. And so my first few attempts failed. And when the pandemic hit, my wife had had a stroke. I was struggling to find something I could perform and make a little income from, because there was no income for performing artists during the pandemic. I had some savings, not really enough, but it was enough to get me through the pandemic, thank God, with the help of this performance that I put together. At that time it was called Walker Between Worlds. And I chose the name Walker Between Worlds because I wanted to share my experience as a Native American, which was a little bit more complex than the average Native Americans. I was the son of a Shoshone-Bannock man from the Fort Hall Indian Reservation and a woman from the Bad River Band of Chippewa. My father was the first Native American of his tribe to get his degree and work in foreign service overseas. He was first in India and then in Afghanistan. And that's where I happened to be born, the son of two Native Americans born in Lashkar Gah, Afghanistan, in the Helmand Valley. A very strange upbringing for a Native American kid. So every few years, we'd come back to the US, we'd go to Idaho, we'd go to the big powwow on the reservation, I'd see all the dancers, connect with the culture and the relatives. Then we'd go back to our life overseas. So when the time came for me to put this program together, I felt very much that I was a walker between worlds. Many worlds, not just the white world and the Native American world, but the American world and the Afghan world and the Iranian world and the African world. It was a very international sort of thing. I had told a few stories, Native American traditional stories in the past, but I never felt strongly that I was the one who should be doing it. It felt like a lot of weight, a lot of cultural weight, that I should have grown up on the reservation, that I should have known all the traditions more, that I shouldn't have had more real Native American experience. Well, my parents are Native Americans. I had Native American experience, and I've done a deep dive into collecting these stories. So I put this show together, performed it, and I was really happy with the way it evolved and is evolving. I just finished a performance of Walker Between Worlds, and what I love about this particular performance is that it's different from all the other performances that I've done in the past. Props are minimal. It's about imagination, it's about connecting with the audience. It's not about any special effects per se. I could do it in your living room, or I could do it on a stage for 3,000 people. Knowing that I can do that has sort of empowered me to just say yes to almost everything that comes along. It's a real blessing to get all these stories after such a long period where we had no opportunities at all. I also have a resurgence of a show that I was doing 5 years ago, which is a pure comedy, physical comedy piece. I really enjoy doing that because I love seeing people laugh. We've all been suffering for such a long time. We need release, and we need light, and we need life, and we need joy, we need laughter. especially theater, calls for you to create with your whole being and your whole self. It's a very healing event on a very personal, deep, conscious and unconscious level. It can heal you after you've gone through tremendous suffering. When things are decaying all around you and you make the effort to create something new that engages and entertains other people, that engages their imagination, that lets them see things from a different perspective, you feel somehow that you've gotten past that black hole of despair, depression, darkness, and all that negativity. It's easy to get caught up in despair and depression when things are hard. It's very easy. So I know what the struggle's like. And so all the dark things I've been going through, my wife had a stroke, and I was struggling with all of that and becoming a caregiver and considering having to change my career. And then the pandemic on top of it, that really impelled me to survive somehow. And that probably from the depths of my unconscious, that spark refused to die and wanted to be heard. So I'm glad I was listening. I'm glad I was able to make the fire happen a little bit. And I think one of the lessons that I've gotten from all of this journey that I've been through is that the ability to reinvent and remake yourself as a creative person is doable, that you can do it, and you can survive, even though the industry may change, even though the method of what you do might change. If you remember the reason why you did it in the first place as an artist, you'll find your way, you'll find your path.
I just find it so moving how Leland found his true path through so much pain and was able to turn a series of just deeply negative experiences into something so positive and so healing.
One thing that really struck me listening to this in 2026 is how the arts can spark light and humor in the darkest moments. You really feel that in Leland's story, and that's something we can all relate to and we all really need right now, perhaps more than ever.
More than ever, absolutely.
Yeah. Thankfully, a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to catch up with Leland.
Oh, great.
And I started our conversation by asking him how his wife has been doing since her stroke.
She's pretty much status quo from the stroke. She's still suffering from paralysis on her left side, still not ambulatory. So there's that issue. And that's just an ongoing presence now. When it first occurred, my life was completely upside down. I felt out of control, like I didn't know exactly what life was going to have for me in the next moment. And then what's happened over time is that it's become more of the status quo, the way things are, and I've gotten sort of used to being in that role of a caregiver for her. And that's been a profoundly character transforming thing. Life becomes much less about yourself, and it becomes more about the shared experience, and you find out who you are, you know.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to run away from something or whether you're going to embrace it and wrestle with it and make it part of your daily life.
So since we've talked to you in 2023, how are you doing in addition to that? How is your work? Do you have any updates you would like to share?
Absolutely. During the pandemic, I started to work on this performance. Originally, it was called Walker Between Worlds, and then it became Dreamcatcher. The main reason for that name change, first of all, the Dreamcatchers, if you don't know what they are a willow hoop with a spider web in the center of them. And there's a lot of symbology about them, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about them. Many people just buy them as lucky charms to hang in their car windows or on their keychain or something. But for the Ojibwe people, for the Anishinaabe people, they're really powerful, sacred symbols. It really connects with the whole concept that we are all connected in this web of life, that all of us have this connection, not just to each other and our families, but to the earth, the animals, and everything that's part of our existence here on this planet and in the universe, really. So one of the goals for me was to rediscover the original Anishinaabe story, and it was very hard to do. I did a lot of research, a lot of talking to people, a lot of research into the written versions of the story, and they were all incomplete. They were all just bits and pieces, and I had to tie them all together, literally like a dream catcher. I literally had to take the different parts of the story and find out how they were connected and recreate it. And after that, I started to tour it. A representative from an artist agency come and see the show. And subsequently, I was signed on by the agency and have been touring it to some nice large venues, nice large theaters, and it's been a real strong part of the repertoire, and I would say a success.
You have a really interesting story, as we've just heard. Walker Between Worlds was one of your pieces, and that's because you have a really interesting cross-cultural background in life.
Yes.
And I wonder what that means to you right now in these times in our world.
The one thing that I think we all forget is, again, how connected we all are. That there's this profound connection with all of us. This artificiality that someone is an other, that's an illusion that's been created by societies. We are different, but it's more like the connection between us is more and deeper than our differences could ever be. Our humanity is what really connects us. And I think that's the secret in almost all of Native American culture. That's the thing that really shapes our Native societies, and it's the thing I've really come to respect and love and cherish about Native culture in general, is that the humanity of it is so profound. The connection between people, between the environment and the earth, the key to their survival over centuries, over thousands of years, and we've lost that. And I think we're a bit on a precipice, of maybe another conflagration. And if we could only remember the simple thing that it's easy to kill an enemy and hard to kill a friend, that we'd have a different perspective on the world. One of the things that is sort of intrinsic in all the stories and the Native stories that I'm telling right now is that we have to give something of ourselves to our community, to our people. You have to give something of yourself, because in the end, that's really all you have to give.
What a poignant and beautiful reflection from Leland. I would expect nothing less.
Absolutely. And it really is an excellent way to end today's episode. And so let's look forward to next time on Arts Work Life, where we're going to be hearing stories about the arts' role in health and healing. I'm so excited to revisit these stories, and I hope you'll join us. Arts Work Life is a production from APAP, the Association of Performing Arts Professionals. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the storytellers and not necessarily those of APAP. APAP is the national service organization for the performing arts presenting, booking, and touring industry. You can join APAP at apap365.org. I'm Claire Caulfield, your host and producer. Jenny Thomas is our amazing executive producer. And as always, we want to give a thank you to Grace Asuncion. Music in this episode was from Blue Dot Sessions. This podcast would not be possible without the generous support of the Wallace Foundation, so thank you. Other thank yous to the APAP staff and board of directors, our storytellers today, and the hundreds of thousands of arts workers across the world. Your stories matter, and arts workers are essential. If you enjoyed this episode, which we always hope you do, send this link to someone who needs a reminder that they will find the right path.
Arts, work, life. That's real.